hello. It's
Hey
Benicia
there.
Fonder, your story coach and book publishing mentor from inspirationalauthors.com. And as always, I am super excited to bring you another episode of our author interview series. Now, we are interviewing authors from our newest book collaboration project, Breakthrough Moments. If you have not already picked up your copy of Breakthrough Moments, I advise you to do so. Go over to inspirationaldevotionals.com, and when you get there, not only will you have an opportunity to get the book, but you'll also be able to meet some of all of our authors. Let me say that. You'll be able to see more about all of our authors and connect with them further as well. So head over to inspirationaldevotionals.com. That's inspirationaldevotionals.com. You'll be able to pick up your book and a copy for 4 or 5 of your friends as well. All right, so today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Mrs. Phyllis Calderon. And Phyllis is so amazing. She is such an inspiration, and you will find her story all about seeing and believing in breakthrough moments. Now, Phyllis, I just want you to introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers. Tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll head into the interview.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I am Phyllis Calderon, and I am from Chicago. I am a music teacher. I play violin and piano, and I teach strings, and I love teaching children specifically. I also go into the schools and teach string orchestra and assist with music directors to that regard. And I am an author of the book Stop Sitting and Stand, which came out last year, June of 2022. And other than that, I am married to a wonderful husband of 25 years now.
Wow.
And we have one son who is also a musician and doing his thing in Phoenix. And
Nice.
I'm just happy to be here.
Yes, I love it, love it, love it. So you were already an author of your own book before you joined the devotional collaboration project. What made you decide to jump in and join this project?
I had always wanted to be part of a collaboration, especially as I learned more about what that process looked like through a an author. What was it? It was a workshop that I
Okay.
attended, a conference for
Yeah.
writers.
Yes.
that I attended, and one of the I think it was you and maybe a couple of the other presenters talked about collaborations, and some of the people who were attendees talked about their experiences, and I thought that would be nice to be part of a group project like that. And you know, and as a new author, I want to learn all I can about the variety of the various ways of writing and being being published and being an author, and then to work alongside others too. You can always grow from learning with someone else.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's so amazing how you collaborate. Sometimes authors who come into our collaboration project, they are using the project as a springboard to give them the courage to publish the book. And then there are other authors who have already published and just enjoy the process of sharing their messages and want to have an even bigger impact. So they've already published solo projects and then coming into a collaboration. So I love that collaboration projects are flexible that way and offer opportunities for all authors of all levels in all stages. So Phyllis, talk to me. So you're a music teacher. You play several instruments. Your son is expressing his musical genius with the world. Tell me about that. Like, how do you also teach as far as virtually? Do you teach in person? How do you do that?
Well, yes. Well, my company is called A Touch of Classical Plus, and I do teach virtually, uh, but I teach them in person. I do
Okay.
both.
Okay.
Of course, during the pandemic, everyone, of course, had to go virtual. So that was a learning experience for me, but it opened up so many doors, and I was able to teach students from Massachusetts and California and Texas. So it allowed me to just open up and to even teach in different ways. So I had to get really creative
Hmm.
with, bringing, especially an instrument like the violin to, a Zoom platform. Like, how do we do
Right.
this? And then I had group classes as well. How do I navigate this? So it was definitely, it allowed me to expand how I teach. And so
Yes.
now I do both virtual and in-person classes.
Yes. I love it. I love it. The pandemic did open up so many different opportunities as far as new ways of running our businesses. And so I love the way you capitalized on that and continue to share your gifts. One of your chapter in Breakthrough Moments is all about seeing and believing and the connection between seeing and believing and seeing. I think there's a beautiful connection there. Talk to us about that. You don't have to give away your whole story because I do want people to go and read your story in the book, but share about that connection. When we're talking about breakthrough moments, this collaboration is all about being able to see those breakthrough moments and being able to experience breakthroughs in our lives. How has that been for you with the concept of seeing it, believing it, and then seeing the breakthrough?
There are two words I guess as a takeaway from my experience with having written about this. And the first word is obedience.
Mm.
And I think obedience is definitely steeped in believing, and then acting that out and then seeing the breakthrough. I think when we walk in obedience, um, you know, things happen,
Mhm.
doors open and the walls come down and, and all of that. The other word is trust the process,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
sometimes we want to run ahead of the instructions that have been given because we think, oh, I can do it better. Or, I don't want to do this like number 4 in the direction. But then when we bypass the specifics of what we've been given, we're going to miss something, or it's not going to all come together or something, or it may fall apart, you know. And I think, trusting the process is so important to seeing, and to believing. Um, and this whole episode, or this entry for the book was inspired actually by uh, a moment I had with one of my students. It wasn't my student, it was his father.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's this Devo I wrote was based on that whole experience, because he wasn't following the process, and it just turned into, I've got to write this down,
Right.
and the Lord gave me scripture and other points besides the obedience and the trusting the process. There are other I think a total of 7 points I outlined in that piece
Mhm.
with regard to that. But yeah, and so yeah, so sometimes I have these experiences with teaching that lead to me writing down the story that, that comes from it. And then it's like after that, like when explaining and helping the student, I see the breakthrough,
Right.
and yeah.
Yeah, I like that obedience and trusting the process because sometimes we only get to see a little bit at first. God reveals to us a little bit that next step, and we have to not only see that step but to believe that after we take that step, then He'll reveal the other steps. And like you said, it's a process, and if we're not willing to trust Him and take that first step, we won't see the rest of the steps, and then we'll never get to see all that goodness that He has for us. So I love the fact that you're bringing that out, that as a part of breakthrough, we really have to be obedient. We have to trust the process and keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going towards those things. You brought up the story with the father of one of your students, and what's so beautiful about your story is that what you're sharing is something that I think all of us go through at times. We all go through those moments where there's uncertainty, there's anxiety. We have plans set up that in certain ways we think that things should go. And then God's like, no, 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 this is not how. Take a step back. But in those moments, we get so anxious and we're just like, I want to make it happen. I want to make it happen. And I love the advice that you share through your story and the lessons. Like you said, you're pointing out lessons and practical applications to this whole spiritual process of obedience. Because sometimes thinking about obedience and trusting the process, you're like, okay, yeah, I understand, but I don't really know how to
Right.
move forward in that. And I love the way you outline that so beautifully in your chapter. Um,
Thank you.
so Phyllis, when you are when you're thinking about sharing your story, and I know you have so much as a teacher. My mom was a teacher. She still is a teacher even after retiring, but she taught in the school system for over 40 years, and she has plenty of stories. So I know that as a teacher, you have plenty of stories inside of you, and even just living day to day. Um, how do you um, let me take that back. Let me go back, rewind. How did you get the inspiration for even wanting to share what is inside of you, or those things that you're seeing, those lessons that you're learning? What gave you the inspiration to not only see those things, but then want to share those to help others?
There were many years that I was stuck, and I, like, year after year after year, was not growing. And it began to bother me, like, why am I still in the same, position, the same
Right.
predicament? And there were areas of stuck in my marriage, and in our financial situation, and I mean, like, in almost every area in my business.
Mhm.
And I think in 2017, it was when I began to take action. Because there's going to come a time when when you're stuck, you're either going to continue because you've become comfortable in that stuck,
Right.
or it's going to bother you such that, what, I got to make a change. And so that was my response. And I remember dropping to my knees in our bedroom, crying out to God, like, surely, God, there's more to you than this. I
Mhm.
want to see you, I want to see more of you. I want to hear you. And I just, laid out my heart and, asked for forgiveness for the stuck that, where I was. Like, help me to see what I need to do to change. And he did. And he
Yeah.
led me to resources with regard to people who were equipped in the word and in teaching, and we're teaching others how to like retrain their mindset, because that's where it starts, right? We have to
Mhm.
train our minds so that they're focused on Christ, right? And on his
Right.
word. And so I went through that and just understanding who I am in Christ. And then once I started to see who I am, and all that ugly stuff started to break off,
Mm.
and I started to walk free, and the things that I was stuck in, were changing, and um I started seeing stuck on other people. And in the midst of all of this, I began, and I was always a journal writer. I would always like
Okay.
write down things, and I knew, like, even going back years and years ago, that one day I wanted to write, but it was during this time that I started seeing, I should say, I started hearing, no, I started seeing the voice of God
Yes.
in my dreams. And
Mm.
and so that was like, it just opened up so much more. And so I would started writing things, and then I started seeing stuck on other people. And I remember my cousin created a blog for me so I could just start writing down these, these moments of inspiration,
Right.
in a blog. And so it was one post I wrote based on the stuck I was seeing in our local faith community, that which was called "Stop Sitting and Stand." And from that post is what birthed the book that I wrote, that was published last year, and it's all about stuck. It's called "Stop Sitting and Stand." And because it's like, when I rose from my position of stuck, I was able to see. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to share with people that you don't have to sit stuck anymore.
Right.
Like, you who say you are in Christ, I can't tell, because
Mm.
there's no, I don't
Yeah.
see any evolution of change in your life, because then you keep complaining about this and that, or you're sitting complacent, or you're always afraid to step out in faith, all these different degrees of stuck. And then there's the stuck of clutter. I have a chapter about clutter in the book. But so it was, yeah, it was that's what inspired me to speak. And so now, and even when I dropped to my knees that day in 2017, I asked God for the boldness to speak, because sometimes in the past I would like, take a seat, quote unquote, in the back,
Mhm. Mhm.
and not, and I would be afraid to speak out when I knew I should speak out.
Yeah.
That was me in my stuck years ago. And sometimes when I would speak out, um, in obedience,
Right.
I would, sometimes people would like try and shut me down. And so that threw like another cloak of stuck over me, just this perception of, oh, what are other people going to think if I say this or if I do that? That's another area of stuck, when you care about what people think, I mean, we should care about God, what God says, if he says to do it, not worry about. So anyway, yeah, so yeah, that was the inspiration. Just when I found my voice, I wanted to be sure to help other people out of their stuck. And so that's my mission, even through what I do as a teacher, because I see stuck all over the students,
Yes.
it's just helping
Yes.
them to become confident, not only in their musicianship, um, or as a citizen of this country, but as a future world changer, for Christ. You know.
Yes. Yes. I love that. So Phyllis, what would you say to someone who has like all of this goodness inside of them, all of these stories inside of them, but they are sitting on that fence. They are in that place before you had your inspiration. They're in that place where they don't even know where to start, what would you say to them?
I I would say find community. Like if you're not in a community, it's important uh, to be in one, because when you're around people who understand your heart, and people who can see perhaps where they themselves have been, they can help you. Because and then just realizing you're not alone. You're never alone in what you go through.
Right.
Um, and the other thing is prayer. Don't be afraid to express how you feel to God. He wants you to cry out. He wants to hear your doubts. He wants to hear your concerns. Um, as much as, your victories and, the joyful times. He wants to hear your hurts and your pains. So don't be afraid to even cry out to him. And then I would encourage uh, the person to write. Just keep a journal by your bedside
Yeah.
and to write down. And even if you're afraid of, like, or not afraid, but maybe for some they're not comfortable like crying out to God like that, like how I do.
Yeah.
Write it. You can write your prayers. There's nothing wrong with
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Just write it out, because you're still sharing your heart, even though it's not, a verbal expression. You can write it out, and he still hears you.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. Yes, he does. He really does. So as you were thinking about the project, and now that we are in the process of publishing and all of that, for this book, how was your experience um, sharing your story in this collaboration?
It was, I had a great time. I really appreciated the feedback from your assistant, the editor.
Karen, yes, Karen
Yeah.
design. She's fabulous. Yes.
Yeah. And I just love this process, because again, it's different from when I wrote the book, Stop Sitting and Stand. Um, I didn't have like the support, or I shouldn't say support, but like the feedback, the way
Right.
Karen came to me um, with her questions and helped me to see things in a different way.
Mhm.
I love that, because that's why we need people. We need
Yes.
community.
I
you know,
agree.
yeah.
Yes,
I think you
absolutely.
can write the book you're on your own and do it yourself and study out how to publish or how to do this, that, and the other. But there's nothing like having the help of someone who's experienced in that field of editing or uh, publishing or marketing or whatever it is, and to make it that much better than if you just do it by yourself.
Yes.
So
Yes.
collabs are great.
Collabs are great. Yes, collabs are great. Absolutely. I love them, and these projects bring out the best people. So many awesome stories, so many life-changing lessons that we get to experience. And so, thank you, Phyllis, for being a part of Breakthrough Moments, for sharing your story, and thank you for the work that you continue to do, just shining your light in this world.
You're welcome. And thank you
Yeah,
for having me again.
absolutely. So guys, thank you all for joining into this author interview. I want to share that Breakthrough Moments is available on Amazon. You can go over to inspirationaldevotionals.com to get all the details about the book. There's a link to purchase the book. And for those of you who are sitting on the fence, or who say, I want to share my story, I want to be a part of the next collaboration, then I'm inviting you to go over to inspirationalstorylab.com. Inspirationalstorylab.com. You will see all the information for joining our next collaboration. what you will see is not only will you be a part of writing your story, but you will get the help and support along the way. We'll help you to determine which story you're going to share, determine the critical points to share, the flow of the story, how it comes together, and make sure that you're able to impact and inspire those people you are called to serve. So if you are interested and you're thinking about sharing your story, using those experiences that you've been through to inspire others, then head over to inspirationalstorylab.com. That's inspirationalstorylab.com. I thank you once again for joining us in this author interview. We'll see you again next time. Until then, I am wishing you an abundance of power, purpose, and prosperity. Remember, you are the light of the world, and it's time for you to let your light shine. Bye-bye.